Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's see what happens.
Being Muslim.
How?
This is what I
And then
say.
they choose.
Will they go to Quranic school here, Nicole?
I'm not sure. I don't have any kids right now, so it's like hard for me.
Right. So let me ask this: if this were a Jewish couple saying that their kids would be Jewish, this was a Christian couple saying that their kids would be Christian.
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a great question. It's not a question that is usually asked unless the family or one of the individuals is Muslim. So, yeah, absolutely. Now, I think people are asking because they're predicting a possibility that if they did have kids, and if it was a girl, that she wouldn't necessarily want to dress in the ways that he would want his child to dress. And then what? What do you do? So that could cause some suffering, obviously. Plenty of kids are totally fine with it in the United States and choose to dress that way. So it's not like it's an automatic thing. But I think that's why they're asking, because if we're talking about kids in the United States or a couple in the United States that were Christian or Jewish or moderate Muslim, I don't know the term for it, but the sort of Muslim that doesn't require their kids to dress in a certain way, then maybe there wouldn't be so much of a worry, right? So let's see what people say.
I don't think you
Would
should
they
force
get the same
religion on
type
your
of
child.
criticism?
Why you said forest? Like, I don't, like...
What, bro? You literally force her to do everything. You suppress her in behind closed doors. So don't even say you don't force her to do anything, because you do. You sound like an idiot.
Like...
Honey, it's okay. It's okay.
So he's about to, I don't know, it's just something comical about the way he's moving. But, yeah, So Nicole keeps thinking, oh no, like he's going to get triggered. And how do we look at that? Do we look at Nicole as just being a nice partner who knows that her husband is prone to getting upset? Or are we looking at a victim, Nicole, who is placating and excusing and trying to avoid, causing someone to get upset? I don't know why this couple kind of reminds me of Daenerys and Viserys in Game of Thrones. There's a certain don't wake the dragon kind of vibe to Mahmood right now, if you're familiar. A certain flailiness to it. But anyway, so this is not a good sign that he can't tolerate. And we've seen this before. In his subculture, I think he's not used to having to answer these questions. And I think he has a short fuse, as we've seen, which doesn't bode well for anybody.
Sweetheart, just tell your...
I'm done.
When he's challenged, he walks away.
Shut up, ass.
I mean, Gabe was really going after him, sort of, but you'd think that he'd have the ability to just have a conversation about that. I wonder what that says. Just a kind of, I don't know. When you are, religious people that I respect, they, when confronted, they might get a little upset, but they have a way of responding to criticism in a way that has maturity and grace and differentiation. And the religious people that I really respect actually challenge their own religions themselves. They don't wait for other people to bring it up. They will say, yes, this is a problem, or yes, this is inconsistent, or yes, the general belief in my religion is this, but I think that should probably change, that kind of thing. So it's not usually the best case scenario that when you're confronted on whatever it is, whether it's religion or something else, that you just can't even tolerate it. That what that usually says is, one, you're not used to having those conversations, but two, you're potentially standing on not a solid foundation, right? If you feel confident in, for example, when people attack me, either as a YouTuber or when they attack my profession or something that is familiar to me, I don't get up in arms about it typically. I might get hot under the collar if I believe that people are being harmed. But if they're coming after me, and, like, for example, I've told this story before. I went to the dentist, and there was an assistant that I hadn't met before, and she was just making small talk, and she said, are you at work today? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a professor. Oh, what are you a professor of? And I said, well, I train therapists. And then she went on this whole thing of how therapy is this big scam and they're just in it to suck money out of people. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. It was literally those sentiments and those, lots of energy. And I just thought it was comical because I thought, I'm pretty sure if your boss hears you, they're not going to be happy with what you're saying. I'm just content-wise, but especially since, but I'm secure enough in my profession that this doesn't threaten me. And, I get it. She likely had a difficult experience in therapy, seemingly. I think she might have even mentioned that. And she was young. She was 19, I believe. She had mentioned that in this mini rant of hers, and that she had been through family therapy when she was a teen. And usually that is because there's conflict and maybe rebellion, and it was still fresh in her mind. And maybe the therapist was a bad therapist, okay? Or she had a string of bad therapists, who knows? And but I didn't feel the need. I didn't stand up and walk out like Mahmood did. I just was like, okay, I get it. And she has an interesting necklace. Actually, that does not look comfortable. I would not want to wear that. But because the beak is kind of jabbing into her thing. Anyway, but yeah. So Nicole is suffering through all this, and I just feel bad for her. You just think, whenever I watch these shows, I just think, date someone in your community, or date someone where you have the ability to vet them over a few years before you commit. Because they were talking earlier, Nicole, about how she looks back at the decision that she made to marry someone after less than a week of meeting them. She looks back and she's like, what was I thinking? Yeah. What were you thinking? Now, I do think there's a possibility that the two of them can be happy together and that Nicole won't be exploited and harmed. I think when he comes to the States, and I'm guessing they'll be on another season, maybe, what's the show? What's it called? Happily Ever After, right? And I think there's a possibility that things will work out fine. But there's a chance that a lot of stuff has happened, and I think Nicole, so this is something I could talk about. Nicole has a presentation of a personality that would be susceptible to being abused and being exploited. There's no extreme evidence of that in this season, but we're seeing some evidence that she placates, it doesn't seem to register with her that her rights are being trounced on. It's possible that in the big picture, she's like, well, I'll let that one go because of this thing, and we do have a connection, and I'm willing to make some sacrifices. But there's a chance that she's being harmed because it almost seemed like this conversation that Gabe was unearthing a very obvious problem in their relationship that Nicole has buried, that she has just ignored and denied. And as it comes up, it very much shows itself. And then Nicole is just like, oh, no. And you think, if anyone would be accustomed to this, it would be Nicole by now, right? So if all it takes is Gabe just asking some pretty simple questions for the truth of this relationship to be revealed, and for Nicole to be like, oh, no, it is a possibility that she is the two of them are very effective at allowing her, including her, at being in denial about reality, and also not registering. I think so. On the other hand, she did advocate for herself. She really kept at it. It's like, I deserve to not have to deal with this kind of oppression of how I dress. This doesn't make sense. But then she talked to that woman in Cairo who was from the more liberal side of Cairo and was proposing all these feminist ideas within Muslim culture. And Nicole was like, "Oh, you're blowing my mind." So sometimes I was like, well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of put those things together, especially I would imagine for younger people today. Feminism is at least available to people in a way that it wasn't before. So I just, is it just that she's kind of spacey or dissociative, or she's been abused before, never been allowed to know what she wants? I mean, you could make a conceptualization that she has a childishness to her, that an arrested development because of mistreatment growing up, because when you think about her presentation, it does have the look of a young person, right? Like a 12-year-old that's just boggled by the world, right? And I think isn't she 40 years old or something like that? I could be wrong. Let me look here. 38. Well, and maybe 39 by this point, yeah. So, she doesn't come across that way, right? They both come across as quite young. Mahmood is 30, maybe 31 by now. So they both come across like, at the oldest, like they're 22, you know what I mean? So it does kind of say something potentially, and that makes me worry about Nicole. Okay, well, let's adjourn there, and everyone, please take care of yourself, truly, because you deserve it. You really, 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 really do.